What's up, YouTube? It's James Q Quick from Learn, Build, Teach, and I've got some really exciting news to share with you guys. There's a bootcamp called Launch Code that started in St. Louis that has been in a few different cities across the United States, and just started their bootcamp in Memphis about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I've been the lead instructor for that class, and it's been an absolute blast. It's so much fun. I really enjoy teaching in person as well as YouTube videos here. And I started to think, maybe I can tie in some of the things that we learn in class into videos for the YouTube channel, so that I can provide some extra value back to the students, and then also kind of appeal to a broader range of audience of you people out there that are watching these videos. So we are using Python as the language for the first module of this bootcamp, and I figured it would be good to do a video on how to set up and use Python in Visual Studio Code. So that's what we're going to cover today. Let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, so obviously the very first thing that you want to make sure that you have done is install Python on your machine, or else you can't work with Python in Visual Studio Code. So to do that, I am on the python.org website. Since I'm on a Mac, it's recommending to download the latest version for Mac, which makes sense. Latest version is 3.7.2, but if you're on Windows, they've got a link for Windows. If you're on Linux, they've got a link for that as well. So obviously the first step here is to go ahead and download and install Python and make sure it's on your machine. Then from there, we can start to get into Visual Studio Code. Now, I want you to make sure that you've got a folder somewhere on your computer. I've got a Python test here on my desktop with a couple of Python files in it. Have a folder that you want to work with your Python files in, and then with Visual Studio Code open, go ahead and go to open, file open, and then open just so you guys can see it, the Python test folder for me, whatever folder it is that you want to work with, go ahead and open that one as well. So once you do, inside of Visual Studio Code in the Explorer, you'll see the different files that you have in that folder. So notice that any file that has the extension .py is going to be recognized by Visual Studio as a Python file. So notice that I didn't do anything. This automatically picked up that is a Python file. Now I've got an extension on here that we'll talk about in a second that I want to disable so that you can kind of see what this looks like from scratch. So let's get rid of that extension. Now let's come back. It still recognizes this as a Python file, but we're not going to get some IntelliSense and things like that. So what I've got up on the screen here is a version of Bubble Sort that is obviously written in Python that we worked on in class. And if I wanted to run this Python file, this is my bubble sort function. It's calling the bubble sort function, then it's printing out the response. If I wanted to run that, I could do Python and then the name of the file. Now, if you're familiar with the terminal, with the command prompt or terminal, whatever it is, you know that you have to be in the directory of the file that you're trying to run to be able to run it. The good thing here is that by opening up that folder, the Python test folder, the integrated terminal automatically navigates to that folder in the terminal. So we're already here. So from there, to run the file, you can do Python and then the name of your file, which in my case is demo.py. So this will actually run this file, and it will run the bubble sort, and it will print out the response, which hopefully is a sorted list. So that works really well. Now there's lots of things that get a lot better with Python when you do extensions. And there's one in particular, which is basically just called Python. And so I can pull this up. It's created by Microsoft, so you can imagine it's going to give you pretty good functionality in VS Code. And so I'm going to install this extension. You would install. I've already got it installed. I just need to now enable it, and I'll need to restart VS Code as well. So I'll do that. And now with this extension installed, when I do something like take my sorted list here, when I start typing in sorted, notice I'm getting IntelliSense that pops up to tell me that I can use sorted list. And then when I do a dot, it's going to tell me here's all the functions that I could use on this variable because it is a list, which is actually pretty sweet. So if I start to do an append, for example, and open my parentheses, it's going to show me what the parameters are that this function append takes, and then gives me a short description of what the function actually does, which obviously is appends whatever the object is that comes in as a parameter to the end of that list. So that's pretty sweet as well. So this gets better and better as we have different kinds of variables. So if I say I've got a string let's just call it let's say I've got a piece of text, which is an empty string. If I start typing text and then dot, notice I've got my functions defined for strings as well. So there's a capitalized function. I get a little description. There's a center, which I'm actually not sure what center does. I think it puts some white space on the left and right to center the text. Count, encode, ends with, all these different functions that are built into Python that you may or may not have known right offhand. And if you forget, you can just kind of start typing what you think that function is, which is actually very helpful. And I'm still not really sure what this message is that I'm getting. So if you're familiar with that message and know how I can correct it, let me know in the comments. So another thing that is useful in here is a very common thing that you'll do is importing packages. So if I wanted to import the math package, as I start typing in M, I can get some IntelliSense and see that there's math. And notice that I started typing capital M. It's actually lowercase m. So if I press enter on this, it's going to go ahead and give me what it actually should be. Then if I try math dot, obviously I'm going to get, like we said before, the functions defined here to go and look through. And one that we use a lot is we use random a lot. Let's do that one really quick. So random and random dot rand range is one that we use a lot. So we get some IntelliSense for there to show us what the different parameters are, what they mean, and all that kind of stuff. Now that I've got some extra assistance from VS Code, again, inside of the integrated terminal, I can just run my Python command and tell it I want to run the python.py file, and it runs again just like you would expect. Now, anytime you want to run this again, you can Command S to save your file, and then all I'm doing is just hitting the up arrow in my terminal to go and run the previous command again, and that will go ahead and run it. So that is the basics of getting started with Python in Visual Studio Code. VS Code will automatically recognize a .py file as a Python file, but with this Python extension, it can give you some extra functionality, some extra assistance or IntelliSense on top of what it just does by default for regular Python files. So again, you can get descriptions of functions, you can look at the parameters that functions take, all that kind of stuff, which actually is very, very useful and can help save you a lot of time from maybe going through documentation or figuring out exactly what a function is called, that sort of stuff. It is incredibly useful. And then because you've got the built-in terminal right here in VS Code, you can just run your Python command with that file right there and then see the output to make sure it looks the way you would expect. So that's going to wrap up for this video. I'm curious how many of you guys out there are using Python for VS Code. I'm relatively new to Python, so if there's any other extensions or any piece of workflow that you guys would recommend, leave them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. With that said, expect some more Python videos in the future. I'm excited to share with you guys, excited about teaching for launch code, and excited to see you guys in the next video. Hey guys, if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. You can also check out learnbuildteach.com to sign up for the newsletter to learn about my latest content. Thanks for watching.